Hello and welcome to part 2 of Angular Complete series represented by tutorial polls. In this lecture, we will understand what Angular or Angular 2 Plus is. Each one of us, when begins learning Angular, he gets to know about AngularJs and Angular, or better known as Angular 2 Plus. Angular 2 Plus then gets several other names based on the major version released, for example Angular 4, Angular 5, Angular 6 and so on. These names sometimes create confusion for beginners. At the time of recording this lecture, we have Angular11 as the latest version available. For questions like, which version should I start with? Do I have to learn all the Angular versions explicitly? What's the difference between AngularJS and Angular? To answer these sort of questions, let's see how it all began back in the history. AngularJS was first announced back in 2010 and kept on releasing the next versions. AngularJS release versions are always named as 1.x, where x was kept on incrementing. After AngularJS was released, it got huge popularity and adoption across the dev community. As AngularJS was under the umbrella of Google, everyone wanted to get its application developed using Angular. With the release of AngularJS 1.7 in 2018, Google announced that it will support version 1.7 of AngularJS as LTS, or known as long time support, till 2021. Though 1.8 is the latest Angular version available at the time of recording this lecture. What is LTS or long time support? Long-time support is a product lifecycle management policy in which a stable release of computer software is maintained for a longer time than the standard edition. Which means there won't be any further support available after 2021. So, version 1.7 was the end of life for AngularJS. AngularJS is dead now. When Angular was dying, something tremendous was happening in 2016. Let's see what was that. It was the birth of Angular 2 Plus. Angular 2 Plus was a complete rewrite of AngularJS as an Angular 2 Plus framework. After the release of Angular 2 Plus, Angular released other incremented major versions with the commitment that it will follow semantic versioning, which led to the new names of Angular 2 Plus as Angular 4, Angular 5 and so on. What is semantic versioning? As you can see, in semantic versioning we have three sections: major, minor and patch. Patch release is usually a bug fix. A minor upgrade means there is a new API inclusion but with backward compatibility, which means upgrading to the latest of the same major version will not break the application, but you can refactor code to use the latest APIs. A major version upgrade makes incompatible API changes, which would require some effort from the developer to upgrade the application to the latest version. To understand more about semantic versioning, please visit the URL semver.org. Now, let's see what Angular says to adhere to the semantic versioning. Angular will release a major version every 6 months. There will be 1 to 3 minor releases for each major release, and there will be frequent release of patches almost every week. The release of a new Angular version every 6 months led to the new names of Angular. So, instead of calling Angular with version names, let's call it Angular. As our learning focus is on Angular, we can say confidently it doesn't matter which version you prefer to start learning. As we have Angular 11 available at the time of recording this lecture, we will be doing all our exercises in Angular version 11, or just say Angular. Next thing you might be thinking, is it a good idea to invest time in learning Angular? What is the reliability of Angular? Just remember, Angular has built-in TypeScript support. Angular is backed by Google, whereas TypeScript is backed by Microsoft. You can be sure of Angular is going to stay. Let's also try to understand why Angular is a framework. What's the difference between a framework and a library? If we look at some characteristics of the library and framework, we will be able to differentiate clearly between a library and a framework. When you use the library, you control the flow of your application. Library provides you some places to plug your code. You choose where to call the library code. Whereas, in the case of framework inverts the program flow. The framework supports scaffolding. It helps you create a directory and file structuring with ease, or on a tip of a command. The framework has many additional features support already in place, for example bundling and minification. Angular promotes modularity, supports scaffolding, and has bundling minification support already in place. How? We will see as we progress. Now we can say Angular is a framework and AngularJs was the library. We will see how Angular helps us as a framework in writing clean code, clean directory structuring, and modular application in upcoming lectures. Now we know the difference between AngularJS and Angular, so let's not talk about AngularJS moving forward. Our main focus remains on Angular without getting confused about various Angular 2 Plus version names. With that being said, let's continue to the next lecture and thank you for watching.